Welcome to Inverness, a small town on the west coast of Cape Breton Island. It sits along the Gulf of St. Lawrence, surrounded by rolling green hills and a rugged coastline. This stretch of shoreline is known for having some of the warmest beaches in Nova Scotia. This is the starting point of the Celtic Shores coastal route. Before we begin a new section of the Trans-Canada Trail, Harry and I like to wander a little. It gives us a moment to soak in the character of the towns we pass through. Inverness has transformed from a historic coal mining community into a welcoming destination, known for its world-class golf courses, sweeping beach, and strong Gaelic roots. We enjoyed the colorful buildings, boardwalk through the dunes, and the quiet little harbor tucked just behind the beach. For anyone new to the channel, we're Harry and Maddie. We're in our 60s and slowly working our way across Canada on the Trans-Canada Trail. We explore each route and share the landscapes, small towns, and moments that make these places special. Today's trail, as shown on the online Trans-Canada Trail map, also appears as 5 separate trails on local signs and maps. So if you get confused, don't worry, you're officially following multiple trails at once. Plus, from the Canso Canal to Guysborough, the Trans-Canada Trail follows a series of highway connectors. We include these at the end because they're just as much a part of the route as the off-road sections. Usually, the Trans-Canada Trail website warns you that you'll be sharing the road with high-speed motor traffic, so it's worth knowing before you go. Our ride begins under a mostly cloudy sky, my favorite cycling weather. The trailhead sits beside the old Inverness railway station, now listed as a Canadian historic place. The location was the terminus for the Inverness Railway and Coal Company line, running from Port Hawkesbury up the western side of Cape Breton. Later the station was built and became a busy passenger and freight depot. From here, the trail turns inland and settles into a long straight run beneath the forest canopy, faint, almost ghostly trace of its railway past. Midway along, the trees open and the path follows the shoreline of Lake Ainslie for a while. There are benches, a little drumming station, and interpretive panels that try their best to teach us something before we pedal on. Harry and I leapfrog on days like this. One rides while the other moves the vehicle. It gives us each a stretch of quiet time on the trail, which leads to, well, this. Without comparing notes, we both stopped at these outdoor instruments and proved independently that neither of us has any drumming talent whatsoever. We didn't even realize we'd both done it until we looked at the footage later, but honestly, they're impossible to resist. At Blackstone Road, which is a narrow gravel road, the Inverness Sheen Trail ends and the Mabou Rivers Trail begins. A couple of signs confirm you're still on track. First several kilometers of the Mabou Rivers Trail wind through deep woods, over small bridges, and past quiet creeks. I only saw a couple of other trail users in the first 10 kilometers. It feels remote, in a good way. But remoteness also means thinking ahead about safety. Cape Breton has wildlife, black bears, coyotes, And even though attacks are rare, they're possible, so I carry bear spray. I also wear bright yellow so I'm easy to spot at road crossings and by other trail users. I carry a small waist pack with emergency supplies in my bike pannier, and I've needed it on several occasions. Once on a Quebec trail in late autumn, I twisted my ankle in a remote spot and Harry had to go get the van. But before he returned, the sun had set, the temperature had dropped below freezing, and a strong wind had picked up. I was shivering so hard my teeth were chattering. In the waist pack, I had gloves, a windbreaker, a rain poncho, and some cord to tie the poncho around my core because the wind kept ripping it loose. Also helpful were a couple of hand warmers and a bit of food, beef jerky, and a packet of sesame bars. Rotated the hand warmers to whichever part of me needed help the most, and eventually warmed up enough to stop the shivering. I even had matches and candles, but the wind was far too strong to use them. Experiences like that make you appreciate every odd bit of gear you've tucked away. As the trail continues, the forest begins to open, and the Mabou River comes into view. It's a quiet, lovely stretch with benches, picnic tables, and another outdoor musical instrument station. We spent the night in a small motel in Mabou. Nothing fancy, but clean, warm, and perfect after a full day on the trail. In the morning, we stopped at Mabou Harbor for a few photos before returning to the Trans-Canada Trail. And soon we reached the start of the Chestico Trail. The Chestico Trail begins in the woods, but our start was interrupted by roadwork. Road crews were busy, and the heavy machinery sent up clouds of dust. I'm used to a bit of trail grit, but this was well beyond what I was willing to breathe in. So we stepped aside from the chaos and made a small detour toward Port Hood. And really, if you're going to be diverted, Port Hood is the place for it. I adore beaches, and Port Hood has 5 of them lined along the Gulf of St. Lawrence. In summer, the water's warm to about 23 degrees Celsius. They say these are the warmest saltwater beaches north of the Carolinas, which feels like a miracle this far north. It felt like cycling into a pocketful of seaside postcards. After our salt air interlude, we returned to the Chestico Trail, now safely past the construction, and continued along the green corridor. The woodlands slowly give way to glimpses of farms and small communities, the kind of landscape that gently lets your thoughts wander. The Chestico section of the Celtic Shores Coastal Trail ends on the causeway over Little Judique Harbour and Livingston's Pond. On the far side sits a simple washroom and a covered picnic table overlooking the harbour. The Judique Flyer Trail begins with a gentle blend of forest and glimpses of shoreline homes. You can feel the coast drawing nearer, but the big ocean views are still ahead. We wind our way past wetlands, waterways, and a series of 10 former train trestles. We also pass a pioneer cemetery and a few working fishing harbors, giving a sense of how long people have lived and worked along this stretch of coast. Along the way, places like Indian Point Pond, Michael's Landing, Judique Station Park, and Walker's Cove Beach gave us more than enough reasons to slow down. From Michael's Landing onward, we're finally right beside the shore, with wide open views of the ocean carrying us most of the way. By the time we reached Long Point, where the Judique Flyer Trail ends and the Cayley Trail begins, we had gathered plenty of photos and video of the coastline. Most of the footage is scenery, with just a couple clips of Harry and me riding through, but honestly, the coastline steals the show here anyway. The Cayley section marks the final stretch of the Celtic Shores Coastal Trail. Cayley is a Gaelic word for a gathering filled with music and stories. Harry and I spent days calling it Sealed, until I finally looked it up and discovered it's actually pronounced Cayley. Starting this last stretch felt a little bittersweet. There's satisfaction in reaching the end of a long trail, but also a wish that it might continue farther. The sea air here has that invigorating edge that makes you want to keep going. A few kilometers before the final water crossing, the trail narrows into a causeway with the Northumberland Strait on one side and Long Pond on the other, and the strip of shoreline called Ghost Beach visible in the distance. The beach takes its name from an old pirate treasure tale and the fog that sometimes clings to it, and it was here that a sign warned that the route ahead wasn't safe for hikers or cyclists. From there, the message was pretty clear. Crossing just wasn't safe, so I turned back a little disappointed and retraced my way to meet Harry. At least on the return, the sun was at my back and the landscape lit up beautifully. We drove to the canal instead. The old Trans-Canada Trail kiosk still stands there, with a notice saying the kiosk program has been discontinued. From the kiosk, the Canso Canal comes into view, quiet during our visit with no boats passing through, with a large bridge looming ahead. The bridge marks the way forward onto a series of connector routes. We'll mostly drive these for now, scouting for future rides or walks. The first of them is the Canso Canal Connector. This connector is very short, about 1.3 kilometers. Near the canal, the green railed side looks manageable for walking or cycling, but beyond that it quickly feels less forgiving. The Trans-Canada Trail map flags this connector with caution, and for good reason. This is the only road link to Cape Breton Island. The lighthouse here is the Balash Point Lighthouse, and the bridge is a swing bridge. It pivots on its center, opening the channel to let marine traffic pass through. Next is the Canso to Mulgrave Connector. This stretch runs about 7.5 kilometers along Highway 344. It carries an expert-only warning with vehicle speeds of up to 90 kilometers an hour, narrow shoulders, and little margin for error. We stopped near the canal at an Irving station for lunch. There's a surprisingly cute dog run there, complete with a bright red fire hydrant. 2 crows had claimed the picnic tables beside it. No dogs in sight. After the Canso to Mulgrave Connector comes the Scotia Trail in the town of Mulgrave. Just over 3 kilometers, it's the only section here that's partly off-road. We walked this one, following an embankment above the Strait of Canso. Mulgrave was once an important rail and ferry gateway, linking mainland Canada, Cape Breton, and Newfoundland. And finally, the Mulgrave to Guysborough Connector. This is the longest of the group at 57 kilometers. It's a working coastal route, and what I enjoyed most were the painted wooden town signs along the way. Towns like Pirate Harbour, Eddy Point, St. Francis Harbour, and Port Shoreham. The Trans-Canada Trail signage was especially helpful as we entered Guysborough, guiding us through several turns. At the edge of town, the connector ends, and the Guysborough Nature Trail begins. That's a mostly off-road 57-kilometer trail that will save for another visit. With this route, we've now completed about half of the Trans-Canada Trail in Nova Scotia, including rides around Halifax, much of the Nova Scotia Peninsula coastline, and Cape Breton, along with the connectors beyond the causeway. If you'd like to see more of our Nova Scotia routes, you'll find them on our channel under Playlists, then Nova Scotia. And as a former trail planner, I want to thank everyone who builds, maintains, and supports the Trans-Canada Trail. Every kilometer represents years of work, and we appreciate every one of them. If you enjoy slow travel, small towns, and exploring Canada, we'd be glad to have you along for the rest of the journey. Thanks so much to our subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe to help our channel grow.